Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to RCI TV on this lovely Sunday evening. We are here and back for another one-off event to close out the year, and it is the McLaren 650S Cup at Kyalami. My name is Ryan Gill. I'll be your lead commentator for this evening. Mike Jones will be behind the cameras. And I have alongside me, for the first time in my knowledge at least, I have Stewie alongside me in the box. How are you doing tonight?
Hey Ryan, I'm doing good, and yeah, it's the first time we've been sitting in the comms box together, so it's gonna be interesting. I'm excited for this race because I don't think I've seen this car being driven anywhere before, and we've talked about this before, but that it's kind of been a bit neglected in terms of pace. But you seem to know a bit more about that than I do.
Yeah, this car is, it's definitely one of the more neglected cars in ACC, and obviously, well, by McLaren themselves in many respects for the GT World Challenge Championship. Of course, this car, you know, famously didn't do too well in the 2018 Blancpain GT Series Europe, and McLaren kind of pulled the plug on it after that, and of course now it's been replaced by the 720S. But of course we do have this car in ACC, and well, if we have it, we might as well put some use out of it. We had a Jag Cup event not too long ago. I think that was just last weekend actually as well, and we do have a couple of events planned for next year regarding the Gallardo and of course the Super Trofeo car, but we'll remain in the present here for the 650S Cup, and we are here at Kyalami. We'll have two 30-minute sprint races here tonight, and it's going to be quite exciting. We're testing out some new formats here at RCI in preparation for a lot of the stuff we're going to be hosting next year, and two 30-minute sprint races, Stewie. I think, you know, some nice, you know, bite-sized chunks for the event here tonight.
Yeah, I think so as well. Especially if you have two of these short races, like there's always some drivers that have some bad luck with the start or some accident in the middle, and then they just have a second chance to redeem themselves. And yeah, we're driving on Kyalami, so one of the more beautiful racetracks in ACC and in general, I guess. So I hope we're gonna see some crazy racing. And as we can already see in the timing board, we have a mixed split between pro and silver drivers. But it doesn't look like the silver drivers are that much slower than the pro drivers.
That's a good point you make. We do have the pro and the silver drivers on display here tonight. We unfortunately didn't have that many pro class drivers sign up for the event, so we threw the silver drivers in there as well. But you know, let's not gloss over it. There are some pretty quick guys in the silver class. I've raced against quite a few of them as well, and you know, there are not that many names I actually recognize here in the silver class. But I'm definitely confident that you know these guys are going to give themselves, you know, a good run for the pro guys' money. And I mean, looking down the the order of the pro drivers, we can see a couple of guys in here that are a bit out of position. I mean, Martin Lawrence, all the way down in 18th at the moment in practice.
Yeah. Oh, there's even one below. It's Matches, who is, if I recall correctly, a pretty quick driver in the championship. So maybe he just hasn't found his setup yet, or he's just not going for a quick lap in practice, because we are still in practice and it's not the qualifying. But that would be quite a surprise if he doesn't make it to at least close the top 10 here.
Yeah, this is it's a bit of a mixed bag, isn't it, with regards to driver pace, and I think you know partly to do with that is the fact that this car is you know so underused, as we kind of hit on earlier, and you know nobody really has any setups for this car, at least not to my knowledge. I mean, if you try to find ACC setups, there are quite a few different communities or you know websites that you can visit that can kind of give you a bit of a helping hand, but almost nowhere is any information on stuff for the 650S because it's just not used because it isn't really that competitive. And I think that's going to be the challenge a lot of these guys face, is that this is a tricky car to drive, even with a good setup. you know, I've played around with this car in a couple of different circuits. I chose Kyalami because I thought it was a circuit that did reflect quite well on the strengths, you know, of this little car, and it's something that these guys are going to have to battle with today. Is that I don't really think anyone out there has got the ideal setup that they would have coming into this race. But practice is over. You can see the timer has hit 0 and the max wait time is counting down. We're looking at Martin Lawrence here. It's coming around to finish his final lap in practice. He is up by 0.05 of a second. It's not really going to push him up too far up the practice order, so it's going to be interesting to see how he does in qualifying. And qualifying is quite interesting to mention for this event, because there is one qualifying session for the whole event tonight. So your qualifying your qualifying position at the end of qualifying will determine your start position for both races, as Martin Lawrence comes over the line and pushes us forward to qualifying. So it is a lovely 7 p.m. in the evening here for qualifying. And as you can see, the sun setting and, of course, the darkness looming on this circuit. And it's important to note, Stewie, that both of our races today are going to be taking place at very different times. I think the first race we have starting around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then, of course, the second race, I think, is closer to 6 o'clock in the evening. So different conditions and lighting that these guys are going to have to deal with on top of a very tricky car that they're unfamiliar with.
Actually, that is interesting, because I was going to mention that when we're talking about the setups, with the 2 races they have, there is the possibility of adjusting the setup for the second race, of course. So we could see some people that were maybe struggling with their setup in the first race improve in the second one, because they noticed what was not working with the setup in the race and they can just adjust it. But yeah, if it's just completely different times, then it's just another challenge for the drivers to adjust their car accordingly. Also, it's not even that warm, right? It's 19 degrees, so we could see some relatively quick times in the context of this car.
It's quite nice conditions out there at the moment. Below 20 degrees track and ambient, optimum conditions as well. Something that these guys will be enjoying plenty. Lots of grip out there on that circuit. And Harry Conway seems to be the first of the drivers coming around the final corner to start out qualifying. So 13 minutes and 13 seconds remain of the qualifying session. We're going to go on board here with the likes of Harry Conway in the McLaren 650S. Seems to have a good gap in front of him. No one obstructing his view as he comes down towards turn 2. Of course, turn 1, the kink completely flat, and then he comes into Crowthorne. Very nice corner. Got to be so tight on the apex. Then he goes up through the Yuxke sweep and towards Barbecue. Not very committed on the inside curb, but going plenty wide on the outside, maximizing the track as much as he can. And then make his way towards Sunset, the long right-hander. You got to hold as much speed as you can through here. Don't drop down the gear if you don't have to. Brake just after the 50-meter board. Ride the inside curb here. Go as wide as you dare. Don't invalidate your lap. And Harry Conway gets very close to touching the grass. Now he comes into the S's, one of the trickiest parts of the circuit. And then he makes his rise up towards Leeuwkop at the top of the circuit. The hairpin, so tricky to get this corner right. Maximize your entry and your exit and power your way down the mine shaft and towards the crocodiles. And you can see someone just going off in front of him there. Is he going to catch this car before he gets to the end of his qualifying lap? I'm not too sure, but he breaks into the crocodiles. Got to be really tight here on this corner and not run wide. It's very deceiving on the exit of this corner. Then up towards Cheetah, the make or break corner of this lap, takes it absolutely perfect. And then into the final corner. And it looks like Harry Conway, how wide will he go? Won't go too wide, shouldn't invalidate his lap. Comes up towards the timing line, and it's a 1:41.9 for Harry Conway to start off the qualifying session.
Yeah, that was quite a solid lap, I'd say, judging by the practice times we saw before. I think the fastest time in practice was a 1:41.4. So Oh no, actually that was Charlie Crossland just now, who is half a second quicker than Conway already. So yeah, we've got
Quickest in practice was a 1:40.9 by Leo Hirvonen, so we're about half a second off that at the moment, but very different conditions to earlier in the day.
yeah, and it's even getting colder. We started at 19 and we're already at 18. So this is one of the qualifyings where the times just get quicker and quicker as time goes on. So I guess whoever gets the last valid lap will have a high chance of landing on pole position here. Almost have the it should be half the grid that made the qualifying lap so far. You can see on the track map the track is incredibly full, so that's hard to find a spot where you have no one in front. But we're following Ryan Meaning here.
36 drivers here tonight. It was planned to be more than that, actually. There's 49 on the entry list, but quite a few people not showing up, it seems, which is unfortunate to see. Maybe some of them getting in a bit late. They'll join in qualifying or maybe just before the race starts. But 36 is what we have here at the moment. We're looking at Cormac Ryan Meenan, a name known around here plenty. Obviously, he's been fairly busy this year, being a photographer for MotoGP. Hasn't really been able to take part in as many races as he would have liked, but he is getting involved in some towards the end of the season, and he sits 6th place at the moment in qualifying, comes up towards the timing line. He is slightly up on his time. He will go over the line. He will stay 6th, but more importantly, Leo Hirvonen sets a 1:40.9 to equal the time he set in practice and put himself on provisional pole.
Yeah, that is a time the others have to catch first, because now it's half a second to him, whereas Crossland was quite quick before. So it seems like he's quite a bit quicker than the rest of the field. We still have more than 8 minutes to go, so there's still a chance for a few of these pro drivers to catch up on their practice time. And the silver drivers, as we mentioned before, they're not that far off the pace here. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see some close racing between both classes here today.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how they all overlap. Of course, a couple of these guys struggling at the moment as Mark de Rita goes off into the gravel trap, the number 99, sitting 8th at the moment, the highest of the silver drivers, just finding the limit of that car and going over it just a bit through sunset, and he's going to have to return to the pit lane. Meanwhile, Peter Frobart sits 5th at the moment. He's a name that I recognise plenty around here. Obviously hasn't been able to join in a couple of the more recent events. We're good to see him back around here, moving out of the way for a couple of these guys. And like you said, Stewie, quite congested at the moment, especially the middle and final sector. That first sector a bit empty at the moment, but here is Andrew Berg in the 904, sits 30th at the moment, the slowest, or was the slowest of all the cars that have successfully set a lap, but now he goes much, much quicker on his next time round, goes 16th, and judging by how much time there is between, all of these guys here at the moment, I mean, looking down towards 27th, 3.4 seconds off the pace, I think some of these guys are just struggling to find clean air.
Yeah, I guess that's probably it, because, as you said, the track is still full. There's like one sector that's a bit clearer all the time, but yeah, most of these guys are probably just trying to do a lap and maybe slow down a bit at the end to get some clean air. Yeah, it's a difficult qualifying, especially since it's only 10 minutes with that many cars on such a medium long track. So yeah, a lot of these guys probably struggling to find clean air. But looking at the timing board, which you guys can look at as well, I'm pretty sure we have posted that in the chat already, but we do have the live timings for this event again. A lot of the guys up on their time already, so we're gonna see some position changes here. Peter Hrober, we are watching right now, he's also 2/10 up on his lap, and he's coming up to the last sector. 2/10 would put him... Oh, my bad, yeah. We're watching Thom, who's 4/10 up on his lap. But yeah, once he crosses the line, he should gain at least one position here. And that will put him on the seventh place.
Yeah, he lost 1/10 of a second coming out, or coming into the final corner, should I say. And if he'd maybe nailed that entry and got a better exit, could have potentially jumped up into 6th place. Here is Matthew Kennedy in the 447. Sits 4th at the moment in Pro. And he is currently up by 0.4 of a second coming out of the final corner. And 0.4 of a second, this could take him 2nd place provisionally, and it will take him 2nd place provisionally. So onto the front row, and almost within 1/10 of a second of Leo Hirvonen, but still Leo Hirvonen remains the only driver in the 140s. And, well, still no one able to challenge him successfully for that pole position at the moment. This is Chris Sweeney, THR Esports Silver. Of course, we've had quite a few of the THR Esports guys around here at RCI lately. Remembering quite a few of them from the 12 hours of Bathurst, and I would imagine quite a few of them are going to be in the 9 hours of Imola that we have coming up next weekend, in fact. Giardia's Winter Special, 9 hour of Imola. Sign-ups for that, I believe, are closing tonight, if I'm correct on that. Oh, they closed this morning, I've been told. My director has just informed me. So, unfortunately, you can't sign up for that anymore, but we will have a race program, spotter guides, and, of course, the live stream for the Invitational split, the Pro Invitational. And, well, I mean, with so many alien names up there, Stewie, the 9 hour is going to be exciting. We have some incredible commentary talent joining us for that event as well. And, of course, RCI always adding to the commentary, broadcasting, and stewarding pool. And, of course, if any of you guys at home want to get involved here at RCI, you can head over to the Staff Vacancies channel in our Discord and get yourself involved. We don't require people to have experience. Obviously, it helps. But if you don't have any experience, we are more than glad to show you the ropes. And, you know, it's never... There's always something that everyone can do around here. Is the long story, isn't it, Stewie? Is you know, there's something for everyone, no matter what you can do.
That is true, yeah. And we're watching Charlie Crossland right now, who is up 0.4 of a second, which would put him on pole or 2nd place, depending on how he's doing in the last sector. He's losing a bit of time now, so he's on 3/10. Maybe he can gain a bit in the last corner to at least get the pole, but it looks like he just couldn't keep it together in the last sector there. Should still be close, and that's very close. But
So
yeah,
put himself 3rd.
The last word definitely hasn't been said here. We still have 2 minutes 30 seconds to go. Clearly, the guys at the front, they can go quicker. It's just a thing of keeping it together for one whole lap and not just for 2 sectors here.
Yeah, Leo Hirvonen, ever since setting that 140.9, he hasn't really come close to getting back to that lap. His previous qualifying lap was a 141.8, so almost an entire second down on that personal best that he has, you know, thrown up there for provisional pole position. 2 minutes of qualifying remain. Here is Christian Buchel coming up towards the timing line now. Crosses the line, doesn't improve on his lap time. He will remain 12th. And it seems that Ruta has been beaten to provisional pole for now in the silver class. Shadler has taken it, and of course that's 8th overall for Shadler and 10th overall for Ruta. And the gaps are starting to come down now, but something that is, you know, starting to become a bit more obvious to me, Stewie, is that the guys at the top, Hirvonen, Kennedy, Crossland, they definitely seem to be the guys that, you know, maybe they've got more experience with this car, or maybe they've just, you know, had, you know, have they put more into the setup of this car than some of the other pro drivers, because we know how quick the likes of Cormac Ryan Meenan, Lubomir Zeman, Martin Lawrence, Harry Conway, and I mean, we've already mentioned Andy Boardman, Youssef Varga, and even the likes of Jan Matthias as well. I'm just wondering if maybe the top three at the moment have just put that bit more time into practicing for this race, and that's what's given them those extra few tenths in quali, as Rita has to perform some avoiding action towards the end of his lap.
And I think that actually cost him a bit of time, because he was up almost 4/10. He's still gaining a position, but yeah, that might have yeah, slowed down his lap there. Yes, you were saying the first three guys a decent bit quicker than the rest of the field. Could be the setup, could also be the clean air on the track. I mean, we don't know exactly, but it's also possible that a lot of the other guys just couldn't find one lap where they didn't catch up on someone, or where they didn't have to avoid an accident that happened in front of them. It's going to be interesting to see in the race how Martin Lawrence can keep up with Crossland there.
Well, as qualifying has hit 0, the max wait time countdown begins, and these guys are on their final laps for the qualifying session. Hirvonen and Kennedy, they are back in the pit lane. Charlie Crossland still out on track. In fact, he's coming through Cheetah at the moment. Not up on his lap time, though. Oh, no, he is slightly up on his lap time, though, and this could potentially put him on the front row of the grid here. He has to find a bit more time. Actually, no, I think this is enough to put him on the front row of the grid, and it is enough to put him on the front row of the grid. Gets himself within a 1/10 of a second to Leo Hirvonen, and looking through the rest of the field, no one else out there that's going to challenge Leo Hirvonen for pole position in Pro. So it will be the man that was fastest in practice who will set pole for the Pro class, but it looks as if Shadler will take Pro in the Silver class. He's 8th overall at the moment. Rita is back in the pit lane, and so are most of the other Silver drivers, apart from Danny Price in the 159 we're looking at right now, but he's about half a second off the likes of Shadler's lap time. He's up by almost 2.5 tenths, but it's not going to be enough to take away that provisional pole position. But let's see just how much it can throw him up the grid. He loses a bit of time coming out of the final corner, but he'll throw himself up to 4th in Silver class qualifying. And with that said, the overall positions for both races, their starting positions are decided, and it will be Leo Hirvonen and Charlie Crossland on the front row of the grid.
Yeah, and even though at the start it looked like there was quite a big pace difference, now in the end, I think we've gone down to 15th or 16th position, who are within 1 second of the pole. So that's, I've been told until the 13th position. But anyways, that's still quite a lot of cars that will be, hopefully, having a pretty close racing. Of course, the rest of the grid, which is pretty big grid, will be closer together as well. And yeah, as we mentioned before, the most interesting part probably is, can Martin Lawrence keep up with Matthew Kennedy, or will the first 3 drivers just have 1 lap and then they're gone?
I think it's a valid point you make, and judging by Leo Hirvonen's pace, is that just a reflection of what he can do in qualifying, or can he carry that kind of pace and consistency into the race? It's going to be very, very interesting to find out. And of course, how are these guys going to deal with two 30-minute races happening at different points during the day? It's going to be interesting to find out. And of course, they're all going to be starting in the same position for both races. But of course, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because if you have a really good qualifying, that's great, because for both races, you're starting high up where you probably want to be. But if you're the likes of Youssef Varga, who's in the Pro class, he's qualified 20th. He knows that he's going into both races tonight right in the thick of the Silver pack.
Yeah, but then again, it's only a 30-minute race. So I would expect that most of the drivers will be a bit more aggressive at the first corners, or especially in the first lap. So maybe starting in the middle of the field or not directly at the front is not even that bad, because maybe they can just get some easy positions when cars in the front are clumping up, braking a bit too late. So yeah, that's what we'll find out soon enough. How these mid-pack drivers can deal with their starting position, and also how they can do that twice.
So just waiting for the session to transition over into the race. And I think it's going to be interesting to see here today with obviously regards to this being a 30-minute sprint race. Something that we do kind of see here is that a lot of races, we have that kind of quiet middle period in quite a few races that, these 60-minute sprint races, for example. We're not really going to be having those, I don't think.
Yeah,
in this kind of race with only 30-minute races. These guys are going to have to make a move on, basically, if they want to make their way up the grid.
Yeah, especially with this grid size. I mean, we already saw that in qualifying how full the track is going to be. So after the first few laps, I'm pretty sure we won't see any car being really alone on the track. Yeah, everyone will just be involved in either being overtaken or trying to overtake someone.
So we come back to the start of the flyby down the grid. It is Leo Hirvonen on pole position. Charlie Crossland should be alongside him, but isn't there. I'm hoping that if he has disconnected, he can reconnect as soon as possible. Then it's Martin Lawrence, followed by the likes of Castex Thom. Lubomir Zeman and Harry Conway share the third row of the grid. Cormac Ryan Meenan sits seventh. Then it's the first of the silver drivers with Felix Schadler and Mark de Ruyter. And of course, rounding out the top 10, we have Andy Boardman. The rest of the grid: Peter Hrobar, Christian Buchel, Danny Price, Christian Bock, David Dorr, Chris Sweeney, Neil Kidd, Marvin Steer, Josef Varga, Brasser van Krausen, Andrew Berg, Daniel Waldecker, Jan Matthias, David Murray, Quinton van Wingerden, Zeliko Madzo, Mark Nosk, Anthony Wilson, Andrew Klimpson, Christian Tenariello, Ruan van der Walt, Jamie Ellis, John Kidd, Andre Alfonso, and Kay Ulwer Beering round out the grid for the start of race 1. 3 minutes until the formation lap begins. And 30 minutes of racing around here at Kyalami will get underway.
Yeah, and I have to say it again, that's quite the impressive grid here. Of course, we merged the two splits, but I'm really excited for this race. This is not going to be boring whatsoever. And I noticed there's not a lot of names that are hard to pronounce, so I'm also excited for that.
So just having a look now, I don't think Charlie Crossland has managed to reconnect yet. In fact, no, he hasn't, as the drone cam brings us back to the front of the field. Can see that it is just Leo Hirvonen there on his lonesome. So I hope that Charlie Crossland can rejoin. We do have rejoin enabled on these servers, so he should be able to get himself back in, and we will hope that that he will be able to get himself back in, because if not, Leo Hirvonen is going to have the ideal rundown into turn 2, because he's not going to have anyone directly beside him to challenge him into turn 2, and unless he has a terrible start, I don't really think he'll be challenged by those on the second row of the grid. Although it was at the 9 Hour of Imola, we did see, I think it was the Mercedes, one of the Side Max Motorworks Mercedes, have a really, really bad start at the 3 Hour of Imola, and they dropped all the way down to 8th place after the first lap. So, you know, it can happen. But obviously Leo Hirvonen will be hoping that he can get away and get a good start. And of course, we'll be hoping that someone can get in front of him, because he definitely looks to be the driver most comfortable in that car for this race. And we'll be hoping that won't quite translate over into the race as much. And all these guys here, all 36 of them, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of racing we do get for the next 30 minutes, as we're just 40 seconds away from the start of the formation lap.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, he's not going to have anyone contesting him in the first corner, and he's on the inside. So even if he has a bad start, if he does it well, I don't think there's a lot that the drivers behind him can do about that. Of course, the second turn being then a right-hander, we might see Lawrence maybe being able to squeeze himself inside. But yeah, it looks to be quite a comfortable start for Hirvonen here, as we are watching the timer go down to the last seconds before we start our warm-up lap.
So I have just realised that Charlie Crossland has rejoined the server. However, he has been put to the back of the field. So he is all the way at the back. Now, I'm not sure with how ACC's warm-up feature will work, if he's going to be forced to start from the back, or if he'll be able to work his way up into that second position. But I would assume, considering the fact that his car has appeared at the back of the grid, that he will probably have to start at the back of the grid. Now, that is a real shame for the likes of Charlie Crossland, because, of course, he did a phenomenal effort to put that car on the front row of the grid, and I'm not too sure how that's going to translate over into race 2. To be honest, Stewie, I'm not sure if the qualifying, if the qualifying order, the entry list order that it has set, if that's now been overwritten, and if he will start from the back for both races. But for his sake, he'll be hoping that it's only this race that he'll have to try that last to first challenge.
I mean, I would have expected him to be put back in second place there, especially because the qualifying was already over. So he joined before the timer was at 0. So yeah, I would have thought he was put at second place. And yeah, for the second race, kind of have to say the same thing. I would expect him to be placed on the second position there, because it's based on the qualifying. But yeah, seeing what happened here, I'm not too sure about that. Obviously, a big shame for him, because that was a good qualifying for him. Yeah.
Well, one way or another, we're going to find out. that's the
true, yeah.
For Charlie Crossland's sake, whichever answer we come to, we are going to find out what does happen in that situation. But I am hoping that for race 2 he is on the front row of the grid, because obviously it's not nice when you put that much effort into getting yourself up that high in the order, a grid of 36 cars, and put in such an amazing lap to put himself all the way up on the front row. It's never nice to see someone demoted to the back 3, something that isn't really their fault either. So here we go then. They all start to line up 2 by 2, apart from Leo Hirvonen by the looks of it, unless Matthew Kennedy has now been promoted to second. I think ACC has taken over slightly and reorganized the drivers on the grid because of the disconnect, although I'm not entirely sure. Considering his position, we'll go with it as is. They line up 2 by 2 as far as we can see. 36 drivers will take the start here. It will be Leo Hirvonen on pole position. Charlie Crossland starts at the back of the grid through no fault of his own. He's got work to do in the first race here, and possibly the second race. We'll have to find out. But it's Kennedy and Lawrence behind. We'll have to find out how well they can do. Can they stick with the likes of Leo Hirvonen? Or is it going to be a runaway race for race 1 here at Kyalami? We are green, and Matthew Kennedy seemed to be ahead of Leo Hirvonen before that race even started, but ACC's okay with it, and Leo Hirvonen hasn't got a great start because now Martin Lawrence and Thom are on both sides of him, but Hirvonen has dived massively and outbraked himself, and that's going to lose out. Martin Lawrence will move into the lead at the start. We've had a bit of an accident towards the mid-pack. Someone has gone round, but the important thing is here, Leo Hirvonen, who had pole position, has lost it within the first couple of corners, and it's Martin Lawrence that leads.
Yeah, and that's what we've been talking about before, that a lot of the guys more in the mid-pack or not in the first rows can gain quite a lot of positions there in the first corner, and quite surprising about the start from Hirvonen there, because as you mentioned, Kennedy was already in front of him, and not even by little. It was like a whole car length in front. So yeah, quite the unfortunate start there for Hirvonen. And I'm being informed we do have a replay for the turn 1 incident, which was in the middle or in the back of the field, I believe.
Well, you just saw the 666 going off there, and that was the likes of Thom, and he's lost out to Harry Conway and Shadler. But here we go. This is down towards turn 1. And
I think the accident we saw there was the touch that happened on the straight already. But I'm sure we...
So is this going to be another... Ooh, there we go. That was one I did not catch at the start of the race. Now, that was John Kidd, by the looks of it, in the number 42, running the default livery for the 650S tonight, and the number 67 of Chris Sweeney, who's got a drive-through penalty for being out of position on race start, has just gone past him. But Martin Lawrence does lead us over the line for the end of lap 1. Matthew Kennedy, though, on his tail, and of course, Leo Hirvonen, who lost the lead right at the start of the race, outbraked himself massively down towards turn 1, or turn 2 rather, and now he's got some work to do. Harry Conway, by the way, up to 4th after a couple of guys, I think most likely Thom and Zeman, have had a couple of incidents, but Shadler in the silver class up to 5th overall. Good start from him.
Yeah, he was certainly one of the guys that used the opportunity there in the first lap, because there were quite a lot of contacts. I think we saw one accident there in the, the third or fourth corner, and we just saw another one. That was Hroba, I think. Zeman, Hroba.
I think it might have been Yosef Farger, actually. Was that the 221? Might have been got caught up in all of that. Cormac Ryan Meenan is well in the thick of it as well. And look at this. Car's trying to go 3 wide down mineshaft towards the Crocodiles. Lubomir Zeman down to 15th place after his poor start to the race. And now here is Cormac Ryan Meenan. And just in the background there, you can see Dor and Bock going side by side. And they're going to come up towards Cheetah. You can't go side by side through Cheetah, gents. And they are going to sort it out before they get to the corner. And a few of these guys just tripping over each other at the moment. They're so close together. And a few of these guys obviously out of position after a couple of incidents on the first lap. But the one thing that stands out to me at the moment, Stewie, is that we did have a few small incidents, but there only seems to be a couple of people that are well behind the rest of the pack. It seems to have gone fairly clean so far.
Yeah, I was about to say before we saw the other incident, I think there were two bigger crashes, because we saw some yellow circles there in the first lap. So just a few cars being involved in a big incident, but of course a lot of contacts, which was to be expected, especially as we are watching these fights here. There's so much going on with these cars that they're just the same cars. So you can't just overtake someone on the straight because your car is quicker or because you have better brakes. You just have to fight for every position, and that's what we're seeing right now. A lot of fighting, a lot of side-by-side battles into corners that should maybe not be taken side-by-side, and we're only 5 minutes in, and this is already quite the interesting race.
Yep, so a few guys struggling at the start and a few gaining out big time. Someone who has lost out at the start, though, is Leo Hirvonen, sitting in 3rd at the moment. But the top 3, all within a second of each other, as Martin Lawrence does still lead the way from the likes of Kennedy. And You can see there Harry Conway just at the bottom of the screen. But here are the top 3. And keeping themselves well close together at the moment. And this is the kind of thing we wanted to see. We didn't want to see someone go into turn 1 and then just start to pull away, as we do see quite a few times in these sprint races. No mandatory pit stop as well. Only a 30-minute race, so no requirements for these guys to come in and serve a 1-litre stop or a tyre change at all. They can just drive flat out for 30 minutes and not really have to worry about tyre saving either. And that's one of the really good things, as Leo Hirvonen getting all out of shape into barbecue, and that was a nice save.
Yeah, indeed it was. And I was just looking at the timing board, and just as an information piece, Charlie Crossland already made it up to 25th position. So I guess we can keep an eye on him, how far he's able to actually go up in the timing board here. And Hirvonen seems to fight with the curbs a bit here. Every time he's coming on the curbs, he has to fight with this car to stay on track, but he can keep up with Kennedy. And as we were talking before in the qualifying about the first 3 or 4 people gaining a bit of a gap, it's kind of what we're seeing right now, because the 4th position is 3 seconds behind.
Yeah, so the front 3 making themselves a bit of a gap. Of course, there were a couple of hairy moments for the guys behind them, so that could have been one of the reasons as to why a gap has formed so early on, only 7 minutes into the race. We're looking at Marvin Stier at the moment for the I'm not going to say the name of this team, because I know when you're broadcasting, Stewie, you always laugh every time I try and say this team name. So I'm going to throw it over to you, Stewie. How do you say this team name?
That is ESC powered by TÜV Rheinland, which is a pretty big... I mean, that's the organization in Germany that's responsible for the license plates.
Ah, so this is Peter Herbert, who's got some significant front-end damage on his McLaren. He's coming into the pit lane. Oh, and actually, those were our leaders. That's Martin Lawrence in the 171. So what has happened? Matthew Kennedy has managed to get ahead of him, it would seem. Oh, no, not too wide into Cheetah, boys. This just doesn't go, and there you can see why it doesn't go. And did Leo Hirvonen get caught up in that as well? The replay just didn't quite show us the end of that, but I think Leo Hirvonen did get caught up in that. He's down, well, he's remained in 3rd, rather, should we say. But drama through Cheetah means that Harry Conway for Triple R now leads the way here at the McLaren 650S Cup, and Shadler in the silver class is 2nd overall.
Yeah, what a turn of events. And I'm not even sure if that was all that was involved in this accident. I'm pretty sure some other cars that came behind were also affected by this. So everyone who got through that cleanly should have gained a lot of positions here. And we're seeing now Conway is quite a big gap to the second car behind him. And in fact, all the gaps are quite big at the front. Only after the 6th position we are starting to see, as we see right now, some fights for positions.
So Yosef Varga has got the likes of Doyle and Andy Boardman behind him. And of course, Andy Boardman as well is under pressure from Price as well. So plenty of scraps going on here, and someone facing the wrong way after the kink. I'm not entirely sure who that was. I think they have returned to the pit lane. I think it might have been the 447. And the 447 was actually Kennedy, so it was one of the cars that was right up in the podium places, and of course was caught up in the accident with Martin Lawrence. So he's unfortunately facing backwards again, so... Ooh. And that's not too great for Matthew Kennedy. We saw him spinning around there. So tough race for the guys up towards the front. Leo Hirvonen lost his lead at the start of the race. Martin Lawrence took the lead. Matthew Kennedy was 2nd, and now both of those guys unfortunately caught up in an incident with each other. They seem to be out of race 1. So anything can happen in these short sprint races. We're only a third of the way into the race, but it is now Harry Conway that leads from Shadler and Hervenen. Cormac Brian Meenan finds himself on the pro podium as it stands right now. But this massive train behind, well, this is far from decided yet, Stewie.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we haven't seen the end of the accidents here. Of course, no one doing anything intentional here, but yeah, it's just the nature of these cup races with all the cars being essentially the same. And yeah, in a sprint race, there's just a certain amount of aggression for the overtakes, so stuff can happen, and it certainly did happen. And this train, it goes from 5th to, I think, 13th position, so that is a massive line of cars here. But no one in there seems to be close enough to anyone to actually try overtakes there, especially in the first sector where we see a lot of moves being done after the first corner. So for now, everyone just staying in line, trying to stay behind, and I guess just waiting for the opportunity.
Yeah, waiting for their opportunity indeed, and Danny Price finds himself on the back of Andy Boardman. Andy Boardman in the pro class, and he's looking to get past Youssef Varga, and we've got someone facing the wrong way through Sunset, and that's not where you want to be. They are moving off the racing line, and we've got someone else that, oh my word, cars going all over the place at Clubhouse. We had someone off into the gravel trap as well. And then we've got cars going side by side up towards the likes of Leocop as well. Anthony Wilson was one of the cars facing the wrong way. And now we switch to Mark Nost, the geodesic and Fnatic esports driver. Finds himself all the way down in 18th place as well, the number 18. But he's not doing too bad for himself at the moment. I know he struggled in qualifying, but seems to be keeping himself out of trouble so far, and he's well in this train, it seems.
Yeah, and it's hard to keep up with all the cars that are off the track, because every car is just a different livery, and I think you're quite good at remembering the liveries. I'm certainly not. I can barely remember the numbers, so yeah, hard to keep track of who's off track or who's just been overtaken. But and speaking about that, we see another two cars who what looks like they have crashed, I believe. So
Mikhail Sundstrom in the chat saying facing backwards seems to be a theme here. And you are quite right. And oh, there it is, Andy Boardman on Youssef Varga. And maybe just a bit too ambitious with that move there from Andy Boardman. But Charlie Crossland has found himself on the back of Youssef Varga after Varga was involved in that incident. So from 36th on the grid, Charlie Crossland, now finding himself with Youssef Varga for 14th place, and a bit argy-bargy there between those two, coming into the S's, and not what you want to see. Multiple contacts. Fortunately, Crossland doesn't go into the wall. Shouldn't have too much damage on that car. It was only side contact, but they're going to have to be careful out there. Meanwhile, the top three starting to close up together.
Yeah, haven't they been quite close together for the entire race? But I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it looks like Hervenden is finally catching up to Shadler here, and maybe on this or the next lap we see him go for a move there on the second place, and maybe gain back on his podium position, because Harry Conway is not too far off.
So Martin Lawrence, by the way, has been into the Discord chat and admitted that it was his fault for the incident, apologizing to the likes of Kennedy. That's nice to see that, you know, there's guys out there that can make mistakes and own up to those mistakes and move on from them. Always nice to see. And of course, Martin Lawrence, a regular around here at RCI for the Connection Lost Racing team. He'll be looking forward to race 2 and hoping to make amends on that. Meanwhile, we look at Charlie Crossland up into 15th place and closing back in on Youssef Varga. Hopefully, he can get past him this time, and there'll be no contact between the two cars. And he's done an incredible job. Let's not, put this aside. There have been quite a few people facing the wrong way so far this race, but Charlie Crossland's done an incredible job to climb 21 places. Not 21 places. No, it is 21 places, is it not? From 36th on the grid.
And there's another car off, but yeah, it should be 21 places, yeah. If he was 36th. Yeah.
Well, now he's moved up to 14th because of that car that was just coming up back on from the track. Was a car ahead for position. Youssef Varga goes past whoever that is. Might possibly be a back marker. Oh. Really showing us that. And Charlie Crossland.
2-1. No, that is Varga in front.
Yeah, so Youssef Varga. No, they were getting past. It was Kidd actually, the number 100 that they just got past. So Youssef Varga and Charlie Crossland make their way further up the field, up to 12th now for Varga and 13th for Crossland as he tries to get on to the back of Youssef Varga and go again.
Yeah, and he's just. He looks a bit impatient, to be completely honest. That move before when he hit Varga there on the inside. I mean, it's understandable with the start he had, where he had to start from the back, even though he qualified second. But he's just really aggressive there on these overtakes.
2 cars off. 2 cars off. I think that was Kidd and Buchel involved in that whilst we were looking at the contact between Varga and Crossland. Buchel taps the back of Kidd, puts both of them into the wall, and Neil Kidd seems to have pulled over on the side of the track. That's not too good. Crossland did get past Youssef Varga, but quite a few contacts between those two on track at the moment, but Crossland gets past eventually, and looking like the quicker driver, he is now looking to gap Youssef Varga, but he's got a 7.4 second gap between himself and Murray in 11th place.
Yeah, and that's just really close racing, a bit too close, I might say. And we're watching, who's that, Seaman? Did he just get past Price? Yeah, he did. He just got past Price in the first corner, and it looks like another car just used the same opportunity to get past Price as well. So Price losing out 2 positions here in one corner, and in the meantime, Hirvonen made a move on Schädler and got the overtake done. And yeah, it looks like he is quite a bit faster than Conway here. If we look at the last lap, Hirvonen with a 1:42.5 and Conway with a 1:42.8. So Hirvonen here definitely quicker on the track, and it should be only 1 or 2 laps until he caught up to Conway there, and then maybe get a chance on his pole position that he unfortunately lost in the first lap. And if we look on the track map here, the gap between these first 3 cars to the next one is quite big. It's 9 seconds, and yeah. So as we were prognosing before, the first few cars getting a bit more out of these cars here.
So as the race goes on, Leo Hirvonen now closing in on the likes of Harry Conway for the lead of the race. Looking to take back that lead that he held right at the start and then immediately lost to the likes of Kennedy and Martin Lawrence through turns 1 and 2. Of course, both of those guys unfortunately out of race 1. 10 minutes to go here, and Leo Hirvonen having a look on Harry Conway. But Harry Conway's not going to give this up easily. If there's anything that I've learnt about Harry Conway is that he doesn't like losing, gets very upset over it, and he's quite good at defending, would you believe, Stewie? And even managed to get himself into the G2 Esports Series qualifiers. Didn't quite make it through the first round, but definitely a driver around here that we know with plenty of pace, and of course we can expect to see them and a few of these other guys in some of our events coming up over the next week. But meanwhile, back into the present, 9 minutes 20 seconds to go as they come to cross the line here. Is Leo Hirvonen going to have another look on the likes of Harry Conway? Harry Conway's going to push him as wide as he can towards turn 2. Is Leo Hirvonen going to get it on the brakes in time? Yes, he is. So Hirvonen moves back up into the lead of the race, something he hasn't done since the very start. Harry Conway down into second, and Shadler getting all out of shape through barbecue.
Yeah, and I was mentioning before that it's probably going to happen in this or the next lap, and it actually did happen quite quickly. So judging by the last times and the best laps they put in, I would expect Hirvonen to put quite a gap between himself and Conway. And I'm not sure if Shadler can catch up to Conway. So we might see even these first 3 drivers who are pretty close for most of the race put quite a bit of air between them. And we are switching more to the mid of the field, where we see Andy Boardman being close to Andrew Burke here, and maybe get another position there.
That car definitely needs some maintenance, though. Looking at the front end of Andy Boardman's McLaren, I'm not entirely convinced that that bonnet is firmly fixed in place anymore, and he does seem to have some damage on the rear wing as well. So Andy Boardman's car seems to be hampered at the moment, but he is carrying on, credit to him, in 16th place at the moment. Charlie Crossland, who we've been monitoring the progress of, in 12th. He's now 3.8 seconds behind the likes of Murray. He's got a good chance to get himself into the top 10 before the end of this race, and that would be a pretty good effort after starting all the way at the back of the grid in 36th. But let's not discredit this man either. Cormac Ryan Meenan is doing a solid job as well, and has found himself in a bit of no man's land at the moment, but he's on the podium for the Pro Class.
Yeah, and you remember when before I said that we're probably not going to see any car driving alone on the circuit? Turns out we actually are. And the track is not as full as it seemed in the qualifying, because we're seeing like 2 or 3 cars that are just driving on their own. But at least they're not going to get pushed out of the track, which I guess for these guys is not so safe to say yet, because they are quite close together. And that's the same group that we've been seeing around about 15 to 20 minutes ago. The big group in the middle. So everyone here still fighting, still trying to gain a position or 2. And the race goes on for another 6 minutes. So yeah, it's still open for these guys.
So as we get closer and closer to the end of the first race, this is Zeljko Madzo in the Dynamic Motorsport 650S, and his car has been in the wars as well today, the number 33. Quite a few cars, I imagine, have got some damage on them. Quite a few people have been facing backwards, and quite a few people have been finding the walls, some of them on their own, some of them through no fault of their own. But this is Jamie Ellis doing quite a good job at the moment, 18th place. And a bit of damage on the side of that car by the looks of it, but someone who doesn't have any damage on his car by the looks of it is Mark Nosk, and he is pressuring the damaged Andy Boardman for 16th place overall. We're going to go on board now with the geodesic driver. He's going to be driving with Dan Suzuki in the 9 hours of Imola next weekend. Going to be interesting to see how they do. And I believe they'll be driving in the new Ferrari 2020 car, the Evo version of the GT3. And mighty fine looking livery indeed that they've got there, running the true to the F1 McLaren team. And here goes Mark Nosk on the inside of Andy Boardman. Ooh, was there a little bit of a touch there? I'm not entirely sure if there was, but either way, on the line of hard but fair, and Mark Nosk makes his way past Andy Boardman and up into 16th.
Yeah, now Alice is probably also waiting for the opportunity there. I didn't even notice that before when I was talking about Boardman there, but yeah, he seems to have quite a lot of damage, as a majority of these cars here have, because we saw so many cars being off the track after a hit or in the wall. And I guess everyone, especially in the mid to back field, who doesn't have damage, should be quite a bit faster than these damaged cars. And we all cars on the track, so it's not going to be boring for the last 4 minutes. And who did we saw there? I think we saw a back marker being overtaken in front. Not entirely sure.
So just under 4 minutes of this race remaining. Chris Sweeney, number 67, he had a drive-through penalty at the start of this race for being out of position on the grid. He has been in and served that. 24th at the moment. In the number 67, he's trying to make his way past Clipson. And all of these guys still got positions to play for, even in the closing stages of this race. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they adapt to the very different time of day that they'll be racing in for race 2. Of course, this race started at just past 2 p.m. in the afternoon. The next one will be at 5 in the evening, so not quite as late as qualifying was, but still significantly different time of day. A few hours between when this race would have started, so they're going to have to adjust those pressures and hope that they get them right, and hope that they've been using the 2 available practice servers that they've had throughout the week to figure out what those pressures are going to be, because when you're in a car like this that is quite twitchy and a bit difficult to get the most out of, the last thing you want to do is have the wrong pressures on these cars, especially around a circuit like Kyalami, where you put so much load through the tyres. We're looking at Lubomir Zeman for the Multi-21 racing team in 6th at the moment. He's had a couple of incidents this race, but for the most part has kept himself out of trouble after the first lap. Sits 6th at the moment, 4th in Pro. And it has to be said, it's been a good show from a couple of the silver drivers here today. Shadler and Bock finding themselves in the top 5 overall.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, part of it is because apparently they're quite quick themselves. But of course, there's also the fact that some of these pro drivers in the top 10 have just taken themselves out of the equation here by maybe making a few mistakes or just being pushed off the track. So a lot of these silver drivers are actually now in the top 10. I think we have more silver drivers in the top 10 than actually pro drivers. So definitely going better here for these silver drivers.
Yeah, of course we do have a much smaller pro class here today, and 4 of our pro drivers are actually out of the race. Thom, Kennedy, Lawrence and Hrobar all in the pit lane, and they won't be finishing race 1, but they will be sticking around for race 2. And that is a reminder for everyone here that, of course, we do have another race coming up after this one, another 30-minute race, as Leo Hirvonen starts the final lap of race 1. The pole sitter looks like he will be able to carry on and take the win, but I don't think he would have been thinking that to himself after the first 5-10 minutes of the race, where a lot of stuff didn't really go his way. And, well, speaking of good performances, we talked about Charlie Crossland coming from the back of the grid. Waldecker as well in 7th place has actually driven fairly well as well, because Tobias Geider has just informed me that he started P22 and has made it up to P7. So that is an incredible effort from the 555.
That is quite the climb indeed. And yeah, we're watching Hervnen right now being in the last sector, and yeah, the gap behind him to Conway, 2.7 seconds. Of course, we didn't see now how Hervnen is compared to was it Kennedy and Lawrence, and also Crossland, of course, the 4 drivers that were in the top 4 positions in the qualifying. But the good thing is we have another race coming up, so hopefully this time we're gonna see these 4 fight for the lead here and not just Hervnen trying to catch up again and then driving away from the rest.
Well, Leo Hervnen, he has managed to survive, and he started on pole. Didn't quite lead into turn 1 and 2, but he will finish the race in the lead and will take race 1 of the evening. Leo Hervnen, a very, very good drive to recover from that race. Harry Conway will come over to finish second, and Shadler will win in the silver class and finish 3rd overall, but it will be Cormac Ryan Meenan who puts himself on the pro podium. And actually, Waldecker will put himself up to 6th, and that's 2nd overall in silver ahead of the likes of Bock. So he will get an overtake done on the final lap of the race. Bock will round out the silver podium. And an incredible drive from Waldecker to put himself from P22 to P6 and 2nd on the silver class finishing positions. And you can see the rest of the top 10. Price, Steer, and Crossland did manage to get himself into the top 10 from the back of the grid. Incredible performance from a lot of these drivers in the first race here. 30 minutes of action down, but we do have 30 minutes of action still to come. So do make sure that you do stick around. You can see the final order for race 1 on your screen right now, and you can see the retirements that we've had as well. Unfortunately, we did lose quite a few guys. Bushell, Krausen, Kidd, Vandervolt, and quite a few of the other pro drivers as well. The likes of Thom, Kennedy, Lawrence, Robart, and Rita.
Yeah, what an interesting, amazing, and eventful race this was. So this just makes me even more excited for the second race, and hopefully some of these drivers try to be a bit less aggressive, so we maybe see a few more drivers just finish the race without being involved in an accident. But of course, a lot of overtakes, a lot of aggressive moves here, as to be expected from a sprint race. And it's going to be interesting to see, as you mentioned a few times before, how these guys can adjust their setups to the new conditions. We don't know just yet what the temperature will be, but we can be pretty sure that it will be a bit colder than it was than it was in the last race.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be about 5 o'clock in the evening that the second race takes place. So obviously temperature is going to be quite a bit cooler from the 2 p.m. start that we had for race 1. We do have a bit of an interval in between both of the races. We have a little bit of a 5-minute practice session going on, just to let the drivers, have a stand up, bit of a walk around, get themselves a refreshment. Obviously, 30 minutes of some quite intense racing out there for a few people. So obviously they're going to be looking to get themselves sorted out and then get ready for the race again in just a few minutes' time.
And at the moment, we're just waiting for the race session to end, as we are watching some cinematic shots of this beautiful track here in South Africa, which I'm pretty sure right about now, this time of the year, it should be a bit warmer than it is here in Europe right now.
Yeah, of course, there was the 9 hours of Kyalami that happened this weekend. Unfortunately, a bit of a lackluster appearance of cars. I think there was only about 12 cars on the grid, unfortunately, for the 9 hour of Kyalami this year. But the race did go ahead in whatever form it did go through. And I think that was quite nice to see in a year that has been quite severely affected by obviously everything going on in the real world at the moment with the outbreak and everything. And of course, everyone staying safe, and of course, we're staying safe here as well in the commentary box. Stewie and I, socially distanced, as we always are in the commentary box. We've got a firm 2 meters between us. I've noticed you're not as picky, Stewie, as Jesse Lee is. Jesse Lee gets the tape measure out and makes sure that it is exactly 2 meters. But I've noticed that you're not quite that specific.
No, I just used the good old measurement of arm lengths. I mean, every other time it's the Americans coming up with these weird measurements, but in this case, I'm just gonna say, if I can't touch you, then it's fine, I guess.
So we are going to be getting to the race session fairly shortly. Of course, just waiting for this break to go on. Let the drivers have that bit of a stand up that we did mention before. But let's have a bit of a chat of what did happen in race one, Stewie, so we can kind of give ourselves a few things to compare ourselves with for race two. So Leo Hirvonen, of course, took pole position, and he will start on pole position for race two. Much to his delight that he will be starting, up at the front of the grid again. But you know what, he's got to make sure he's got to make sure he doesn't have a very poor start again. And he was quite lucky, in fact, that Charlie Crossland wasn't alongside him for the start of that race, because Charlie Crossland would have definitely been ahead of him, and he was very, very late on the brakes into turn two, and that did cost him those positions in the end. So Leo Hirvonen, who kind of made a bit of a mess of his first start, will he'll have a chance to get it right again. But if he doesn't get it right, Kennedy and Martin Lawrence, they're going to be looming.
Then again, what we saw at the start, I don't remember who it was. Wasn't it Kennedy who was actually starting in front of him? So maybe that put a bit of pressure on Hirvonen there to try and get that position back as soon as possible, which led to him overshooting the first corner there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he will deal with the second start here. Hopefully get the start right this time. And as well as Crossland, who hopefully, we're not sure yet, will start in his actual second position to make the front rows a bit more interesting.
Yeah, and of course, Martin Lawrence and Matthew Kennedy were involved in an incident, and that was quite unfortunate for them. Martin Lawrence put his hands up and said that he was to blame for that, and but he did apologize to Matthew Kennedy, and Kennedy seemed to accept that apology. Always nice to see drivers admitting from their mistakes and being able to own up to it. And it's always good to see that kind of sportsmanship, is being able to recognize your mistakes and put your own ego aside and say, look, I messed up, it's my bad, ruined each other's races, I'll try and make sure it doesn't happen again next time.
Yeah, and especially in these one-off races where it's not like a big championship, so in the end the result doesn't really count for anything, then yeah, it's still nice to see that drivers try to be as fair as possible and just respect each other. Well, we saw a lot of talking about the last race. We saw a lot of overtake attempts or moves that were just barely on the border between being just aggressive or being just a really bad move.
Yeah, so we are into this little 5-minute practice session, as you can see here, just counting down. A few of these guys just going out and warming themselves up. Our timing board seems to have had a bit of an issue in the way that it's not tracking classes anymore. So that is slightly interesting. It's going to make our job for race 2 a bit more difficult, Stewie, to recognize who's in pro and who's in silver. But the good thing is we do have the practice session running, and this is Matt Kennedy in the 447. Of course, unfortunately, was involved in that incident with Martin Lawrence, and he'll be hoping for a much better time out in race 2. And to my knowledge, he should be starting 3rd on the grid, considering the qualifying results that we had earlier on.
Which is now going to be interesting because we did have a server restart, which also led to these, not working classes. So I guess now the question of where does Crossland start is even more a thing now for this race. Because does the entry list work from the qualifying results, or is it going to be from whatever we saw in the first start?
So what we are hearing is that Charlie Crossland should be starting in his relevant position as Matt Kennedy finds the wall coming out of the S's, and we switch to Lubomir Zeman. And despite the little server restart that we had to go through, everyone should be starting in their relevant positions that we had at the end of qualifying. And every one of these guys is going to get the chance to go again. And I'm looking down through the order, and we have 35 cars for the practice session. So only one driver has not rejoined after the server restart. We'll hope that they can join before the end of practice, but that seems to be a really good sign, Stewie, that a lot of these guys have kept themselves around here for race 2, even if they did have a rather unfortunate end to race 1.
Yeah, I guess a lot of the drivers in the back just thought, well, last race we made quite a lot of positions, which I would say most of the drivers did, because so much happened at the front and the midfield. And of course, the front of the field, they just want their second chance of getting a good position after all the incidents that happened to them. So the second race, definitely not going to be any less interesting than the first one, especially with Crossland now here. So 17 seconds to go until we go to the race session and wait again for the formation lap and the start, as Zeman here coming pretty close to the wall. I wonder if someone installed big magnets in these walls today, because we're seeing so many cars off the track.
We have seen quite a lot of cars, in the walls, and as Mikkel Sundstrom had said earlier as well, a lot of guys finding themselves facing backwards, and not entirely sure if that's just a characteristic of these cars. This circuit, it's not particularly an issue that I found when I did a couple of AI races around this circuit to get some of the promo material shots for this race. And I mean, obviously it's the AI. They probably don't have the same share of issues that we have as real, sim racers. But yeah, it's not particularly an issue that that I encountered when driving this car. But then again, I probably wasn't pushing this car quite to the limit that these guys are probably going to be pushing it to.
Yeah, and we're just seeing the last few cars here cross the line. Of course, everyone has to wait for them to actually finish their lap. And then another long 5 minutes for these guys waiting on the grid in the heat. Now, do we have the race? Yeah, the race will start at 5 p.m., so at least they're not quite that hot in their car seats there, as we actually switch to the racing session, and we'll just go back to our cinematics there while these drivers set up their last things, and our camera crew will get ready to give us some beautiful shots of the formation lap.
Yeah, so all the drivers get themselves out onto the grid, and they will start in the positions that they did start in for race 1. That means that Leo Hirvonen will be on pole position, and Charlie Crossland will find himself in second. And he won't be starting all the way at the back of the grid. He did start all the way at the back because he disconnected, unfortunately, before race 1 started, so he had to rejoin and was unfortunately put at the back of the grid. But this time, he's starting in second place. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how we can do starting for second place. He had some incredible pace, even if that was, followed by a bit of questionable racecraft that we did see. Quite a few bumps with a couple of guys out there, but he's definitely got some pace, and it's going to be interesting to see if alongside Matt Kennedy and Martin Lawrence, if anyone in particular can take it to Charlie Crossland here. And we seem to have run into another issue with Leo Hirvonen being an entire grid ahead of everyone again.
Yeah, what is going on? I'm a bit confused now. Where is he? I think we don't see him, right?
He is that lone car on the. I mean, I hesitate to call it a front row because it's one car. But
oh, right.
So yeah, ACC things. It's just
some interesting grid positions we have today. That's for sure. But so he's actually not on the favorable inside position now, but he's on the outside. So some of these drivers just not having their day today, I think.
I can imagine the confusion down on the grid at the moment. There's the grid walk going on, all the celebrities down there. Just everyone's confused as to why Leo Hirvonen has an entire row to himself. But maybe that's the perks of getting pole position and winning race 1 that we don't know about. Does ACC have that special criteria that you get the entire front row to yourself on the second race? I joke, of course, but interesting to see nonetheless. But good to know that Charlie Crossland is up in second place, where he should be, considering his qualifying that he had earlier on. So, well, we go again, just under 2 minutes until the formation lap is underway, and we have another 30 minutes of racing. And we didn't do any predictions, did we? For the first race, we kind of just didn't really have the time. We were talking about so much that we kind of glossed over it. But Stewie, considering what you've seen in qualifying in race 1, who would you put down as a favorite for race 2 then?
I would say, seeing how Hirvonen caught up to the leaders and immediately put a gap between them, he might have really good chances to grab this one as well, if he can make the first turns work out for him. Then again, we haven't seen Crossland actually being at the front, competing with these guys. So yeah, my guess is Hirvonen, but I'm gonna keep an eye on Crossland, how he can deal with this new situation for him.
Yeah, and of course, it'll be nice to see Matt Kennedy and Martin Lawrence, obviously, if they can get in there in the mix, and hopefully there is no incident between those two yet again. Cormac Ryan Meenan, who ended up on the podium for the Pro Class, starts back in 8th place, as he did earlier. And he's going to have his work cut out for him again. But of course, Harry Conway will also be looking to make his way further up the grid. Of course, he finished second in the Pro Class and second overall. So Lubomir Zeman, Thom, they're also going to be looking to have much better races than last time out. Same goes for Boardman, Robar, and even the likes of Josef Varga as well. And Waldecker, starts all the way down in 23rd. He started 22nd in race 1 because of Charlie Crossland being put to the back of the grid. So he starts 23rd. He finished, was it 7th, I think it was, in race 1. So we've seen him, climb, really well and high up the order in just 30 minutes. Can he do it again in different race conditions? Going to be interesting to find out. But it is cooler here for race 2, Stewie. You were right on the mark that it would be cooler. 26 degrees track temperature. So it's about 3 degrees cooler for the race than it was just 3 hours ago.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be that big of an adjustment especially to the tires here. But yeah, we will see how this turns out. And yes, as you mentioned, a lot of these guys that we now see down on the grid, like Waldecker or Stier or I think Vaga as well, all of these guys were in the top 10 or top 15 in the last race. As we're watching Matthias, who will probably start from the pit if he's gonna start at all, because this looks like some mechanical, technical issue kind of thing. So we'll keep an eye on that if he's actually leaving the pits there. But for now, he's not gonna taking part in the formation lap and the starting procedure. And yeah.
That's a shame for Jan Matthias, actually, because he wasn't very high up the order in qualifying, 24th, and now he is going to start from the pit lane. Whilst we're here, by the way, and we make our way round on the formation lap, it's about appropriate that we do say a big thank you to everyone here tonight watching, spending your Sunday evening on RCI TV. We're really, really grateful for your time. If you've enjoyed the coverage here tonight, of course, do feel free to subscribe if you're new and give the stream a like. It really, really does help us. And of course, we're always growing here at RCI. We've always got stuff going on. We are going to be having a bit of a winter break as we come closer to the holiday season. But of course, we do still have to say a big thank you to RaceDepartment AK Informatica and Raceface Speed Labs. Of course, RaceDepartment helped RCI get up on its feet. AK Informatica, of course, they provide our servers. And Raceface Speed Labs, you can get some awesome coaching for ACC from the likes of Bruno Kadili and Jordan Sherratt, two of South Africa's most prominent sim racers, who have also got real-life experience as well. And you can use code RCI Coaching to save on a Speed Labs session. They also do replay reviews and group sessions, so you can save as a bundle. So plenty of stuff for you guys to look at if you're looking to compete at the front of the field with some of the very best. But here we go then for race 2. Leo Hirvonen on pole position. Charlie Crossland looks to be on the front row of the grid now. They do seem to have sorted themselves out into the right positions for the start of race 2. And here we go then. We are green for race 2. Leo Hirvonen leads them down through the kink and turn 1. And now he's going to go down towards Crowthorne for turn 2. He's going to have Charlie Crossland on the outside, late on the brakes here. Leo Hirvonen, he overshoots it again down into turn 2. Charlie Crossland will go on through, and now it's side by side with Kennedy. And he will find himself passed. And for the second time this evening, Hirvonen down to third after turn 2, someone off into the wall through the Yutske sweep. And that was Rita, who started second in the silver class. Drama already.
Yeah, definitely a bit clean in the first race, but yeah, as we saw there, Hirvonen with kind of the same mistake again, losing 2 positions again. Quite unfortunate for him, but now we're actually seeing Crossland leading the race, and Hirvonen having to make the same move by catching up again. So now Crossland has the time to show us what he couldn't do in the last race, and that is how much pace does he have to actually drive away from these fast guys behind him. And by the looks of it, he already put a small gap, but gap at least, between him and Kennedy.
So Leo Hirvonen starting on pole yet again, but making a mistake down towards turn 2 yet again. Hasn't learnt from race 1, it would seem, and he's given himself some hard work to do. Someone off at Cheetah I just saw in the background. Not entirely sure who that was. Cormac Ryan Meenan. He's lost a place on the start, by the looks of it, to the likes of Lubomir Zeman, and Shadler's just dropped down the order. He was in 10th place, but he has just dropped a few positions. Not too sure what has happened to him. And he is, or was, sorry, the silver leader. It is a bit hard to track now at the moment, now that the timing sheet has had a bit of an issue, but it is Christian Buchel who is the lead silver car at this point in time, and he sits in 10th position at the moment as we see them file on through. And you are definitely correct, Stewie. It has been a cleaner start to race 1.
Yeah, we can even see that by just looking on the timing board. All the gaps are just below 1 second, so a massive field of like 15 or 20 cars being head to tail here, and it's gonna be an interesting race again. So no one yet seems to be going for any aggressive overtakes, so everyone just using the opportunities of someone making a mistake to get a position here. Like, is he gonna get sideways? No. But yeah, as we saw in the first lap, the overtakes by mistake from the guy in front. But yeah, this entire field is just so close together, so we're gonna see some more action here as time goes on. And another one being wide, but he could defend it, and that was Frober, who just went slightly off the track, came back, and he can actually not defend his position, while Shadler here going for this aggressive move and moving up to 11th place.
Yeah, Shadler wants to get a move on because he can see Bock in front of him, who is the leader in the silver class. It was Buchel, but then he made a mistake, it seems, and has dropped right down to 20th place. So Bock leads the way in silver, and Shadler, who didn't quite get as good of a start as he had in race 1, will now look to try and take the lead of silver back. Meanwhile, Andy Boardman, who, if we're being honest, did not have a very good race 1, and Bock, that's Bock in the background. That's the silver leader, the man I was just talking about, who was going to get chased down by Shadler, has now made a mistake coming out of barbecue, and he's dropping all the way down the order, and that's unfortunate for the likes of Christian Bock. But staying here with Andy Boardman, he didn't have a great race 1, but he said he would be hoping for a much better time in race 2. Well, almost 5 minutes in, and he's sitting in 7th place at the moment, which looks like a much better start to race 2 than what he had in the first event. But it is still Charlie Crossland that leads the way from Matt Kennedy, Leo Hirvonen in 3rd, Martin Lawrence 4th, Harry Conway rounding out the top 5, and the top 10 all pro class drivers.
And looking at the gap between Crossland and Kennedy there, it's already up to 1 second. So, we see Boardman overtake Tom here. Yeah, he did. Same corner as we saw the last overtake. Seemed pretty clean. Nothing big about that. But yeah, Crossland already a gap of 1 second to Kennedy there. Hirvonen can kind of keep up to Kennedy, but it looks like Crossland does definitely have the pace here to, if he doesn't make a mistake, maybe just drive away from them. And what we were talking before the first race about with the first 3 cars driving away, that's kind of what we're seeing here right now, with Lawrence just losing time in each lap. So yeah, it's just the first 3 cars being in a small group together, and then already see that gap of 2 seconds.
So gaps starting to form here, but plenty still going on track as Leo Hirvonen now looks to close in on Matt Kennedy. And of course, Martin Lawrence just not able to stay with these guys at the moment in the second race, and he's got Harry Conway closing in on him. Of course, Harry Conway finished 2nd in race 1. We'll be looking to try and replicate that kind of performance here in race 2. And he's got Andy Boardman behind him, 1.8 seconds between those two. And it seems that Cormac Ryan-Meenan is trying to get past Thom at the moment. And he's going to have a look into the Crocodiles. Is Cormac Ryan-Meenan going to get the job done? They're going to come up towards Cheetah. They're going to be too wide. You can't do this, lads. And, oh, Thom's going to go off. And, oh, Lubomir Zeman takes avoiding action. Does very well indeed. And that's just an example of, well, one of the better outcomes that can happen when you go too wide into Cheetah. I have to say that most of the time you go too wide into Cheetah, someone ends up in the wall. But a very good job there from Thom to not end up in the wall, but I kind of get the feeling he should have backed out of that before they came to Cheetah. It was always going to be Cormac Ryan-Meenan's line. And in the end, he's lost 2 places out of it in total as we refocus our attention on Leo Hirvonen.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that we've been watching here for the entire first race and also this one, that no one really wants to give up a position for free, because of course the race being only 30 minutes, there's not a lot of time to gain these positions back. So once you've lost them, you probably lost them for good. And Hirvonen here getting closer ever so slightly to Kennedy. He hasn't had the chance to actually make a move on him yet, but it looks like, oh, he did just now. So scrap what I just said. It looked like Kennedy just had a small mistake there in the hairpin, and that allowed Hirvonen to just overtake him.
I think he went very deep trying to defend from Leo Hirvonen, and that kind of just compromised his exit there. And Leo Hirvonen, who took the ideal line, just slot on through and off he goes. So up to second place for Leo Hirvonen. Has regained 1 of the places he lost at the start. This is Peter Hrobar. He's got the silver lead car behind him, and Hrobar getting all out of shape, just catching the edge of the gravel trap coming out of Cheetah, and that has cost him time, and it's cost him a position through the final corner as well, as Shadler makes his way on through. But Peter Hrobar, well, they're only competing for overall position, not class position. But Hrobar's going to look to take this back to the inside of turn 2. Is he going to get it done? No, not quite. Through Crowthorne as up the Yuxgay sweep, and Shadler maintains that 10th position that he took. Very good driving from those guys there indeed. And good driving from Waldecker behind, who managed to avoid running into the back of Hrobar. And whilst we're on the subject of Waldecker, started P23 up into P12, 11 places gained in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, that definitely looks like a case of he didn't get a good qualifying time, and because even in this much cleaner race than the last one was, he's able to just gain already 10 positions in only 10 minutes. So he's definitely quicker than his qualifying time has led us to believe. So it's going to be interesting to see how many positions he can gain from now on, because most of the cars or the gaps in front of him are not really that big. So he's still in the line with all of these other cars. And yeah, if he can keep up his pace, I'm sure we'll see him in the top 10 here at the end of this race.
So as the race goes on, Shadler leads the silver class. Looking back at Quinten van Wingerden. At the moment, he's closing in on the likes of Ellis, all the way down in 23rd and 24th place at the moment, these guys. And bit of damage on the front of Van Wingerden's car, it seems. And I've just seen that Thom has made a mistake coming into the final corner. And he's lost out on a few more positions. In fact, he's all the way down into 20th now, not too far off the cars that we can see on screen. So somewhat of an issue there for the Frenchman, it seems. Didn't have a great race 1, and it doesn't seem like he's having a great race 2 either, to be honest. Hasn't really got much damage on that car either. I'm willing to think that that's probably more down to individual mistakes and driver error than it is down to incidents. Meanwhile, Matt Kennedy starting to drop off the likes of Leo Hirvonen. And Leo Hirvonen doing exactly what we wanted to see, closing in on Charlie Crossland.
Yeah, and with yet another car going wide in yeah, in the last corner, or before the last corner there. Even if it's not magnets around the track, I'm pretty sure there's some track marshals that are just pulling some strings for these cars to go wide. Because small contact here. I think all is good. Yeah, we've seen so many cars go wide, but he does make, that is Nosk on Murray here. He does make the overpass on the outside. Quite the unusual move, but he gets it done. Even without a contact in the actual turn. And moves up a position as well. But yeah, a lot of cars still going wide. Most of the time it's even on their own, so not a contact. But yeah, at least we don't see that many accidents.
Yeah, and Peter Hrobart finds himself now down in 17th place. He didn't finish in the first race, unfortunately had to retire. And he's not having a great race too either, but he is still in the race, and that is the important thing for him. He's moved up to 16th place ahead of Murray, and he's now got Mark Nosk ahead of him as they come down towards turn 2. Is Murray going to have a look back to try and take that place back? The number 77 on the inside through Crowthorne. He'll be on the outside for the Uxgay sweep, and he will concede the position. And it seems to me, and this is a bit more obvious in normal GT3 racing, but you really do have to be slightly ahead of the car you're racing if you're going to be on the outside line of the Uxgay sweep, because you have to avoid that inside curb. It can kill you, and a lot of these guys just not really committing to risking running over that curb, especially in a car so twitchy like this that a lot of them are unfamiliar with. But Leo Hirvonen, he looks right at home in this car as he's getting onto the back of Charlie Crossland. It's fair to say that if Leo Hirvonen can make it 2 race wins out of 2 here tonight, he's going to have to be crowned the McLaren 650S champion, isn't he?
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, apparently he was kind of held up by Kennedy there, because since he made the pass on Kennedy, he's been gaining time on Crossland the entire time, and he is looking at the last lap about 1/10 quicker. His best lap actually 5/10 quicker than Crossland here. So it looks like that Hirvonen is a bit quicker than Crossland. So it's just a thing of, can he actually make the move on Crossland? Because we saw Crossland in the last race being quite aggressive on overtaking. I think we haven't actually seen someone try to overtake him, so it's going to be interesting to see how he's gonna do this defending thing with someone a bit quicker behind him.
Yeah, Charlie Crossland was doing the overtaking, and Leo Hirvonen, he's lost it, but can he catch it again? Yes, he can. Comes back on track, and Matthew Kennedy having a bit of a moment as well. And who is going to come out on top of this? I think it is going to be Matthew Kennedy. We get a bit of an instant replay here. Oh, tank slapper there, but managed to save it, which is the important part for Leo Hirvonen. And I think he has lost out to the likes of Kennedy. But most importantly for him, he has kept himself in the race and in the podium positions as well.
Yeah, and we kind of jinxed it a bit there, I guess, by mentioning how well he's done. Because now he has to do all of this work that he put in for the past 15 minutes again. And I'm not entirely sure if he can actually do it. He is close to Kennedy now, so I'm pretty sure he can make that pass again, but I don't think he will be able to catch up on Crossland again. With a 3-second gap and only 14 minutes to go, that seems rather unlikely.
So, Leo Hirvonen, if he is going to win this race, he's just made it quite a bit more difficult for himself, but that just shows what happens when you're pushing to the limits that these guys are. Obviously, Leo Hirvonen just found the line that was on the limit and just went a bit too far. Meanwhile, Mark Nosk, coming from quite far back, but does manage to get the overtake done on... who was that? Was that Chris Sweeney in the 67? It was, and manages to get the overtake done. Did come from quite far back, but did manage to get it done fairly clean. and he moves himself up into 14th place. And Mark Nosk finished in the top 20 for race 1. I cannot remember the exact position, but he is definitely serving an improvement in race 2, up to 14th place at the moment, and not doing too bad in the silver class as well, finding himself, I think, around 5th or 6th place in silver. So not doing too bad. And Harry Conway has found himself down in 11th place overall, so he's struggling as well, it seems.
Yeah, and we're watching the fight between these three cars here, and it looks like that that Sweeney might even be losing 2 positions here in these few corners, but no, he can keep Grober behind him. Or can he?
Oh, it doesn't look like it.
Inside move.
Ooh. Had to take a bit of avoiding action, I think, there. The likes of Chris Sweeney, and Murray has gone through as well in the number 77, so losing 3 places over the course of 1 lap for Chris Sweeney. Not exactly what he'd be wanting to see. Mark Nosk maintains his position in 14th place, but considering the pace of Peter Hrobar, I don't think that's going to last very long. But the geodesic driver has done well today, shown a good account of himself, and obviously, as I mentioned, he'll be racing in the 9 Hours of Imola coming up next weekend. And if you guys aren't excited for that, well then it's not really much we can do to help you. I mean, if you're not excited for a 9-hour race at Imola to end off what has been an incredible year for RCI, then I don't know what will. But Matthew Kennedy getting all out of shape coming out of Leeuwkop. Leo Hirvonen says, thank you very much, I'll take that 2nd place back. And we'll do so. Martin Lawrence having a look into the Crocodiles, but no doing there. And Leo Hirvonen back up into 2nd place now. 3.3 seconds between himself and Charlie Crossland. 11 minutes to go. It's going to be a big ask of Leo Hirvonen if he's going to win this race. But anything is possible as they come out of the final corner. Kennedy just a bit wide.
Yeah, and it looks like while in the last race the drivers were more fighting with each other, this time they're kind of fighting with themselves or with their cars, which is quite surprising because the temperature is a bit lower, so the tires should be a bit easier on the tires. But yeah, it looks like most of these drivers are just struggling to keep the car on track, especially in these fast corners, as we're seeing Hirvonen here make another slight mistake and Kennedy trying to get past, but it doesn't look like he's far enough. He isn't. But Lawrence here trying to get a use out of this whole maneuver, but for him as well, didn't quite have the speed to actually make that stick, and the positions stay unchanged. But yeah, the heat is on for these 3 drivers.
This is painful for Martin Lawrence. He's seeing all this happening in front of him, and every time he tries to capitalize on it, the door just doesn't seem to stay open long enough for him to kind of put his nose in there. And he's trying to be extra careful, of course, around Kennedy, because he got involved in an incident with him in race 1, and apologized for it and said he didn't really want that to happen again in race 2. So Martin Lawrence just being a bit more careful around Kennedy in the 2nd race. And Peter Hrobar has made his way past Mark Nosk. Did see that one coming sooner rather than later. That now means that Peter Hrobar can focus forward on Christian Buchel, 1.5 seconds up the road in his sights. And I think that is one of the advantages that you do get when you're coming through a pack of slower cars, as we see Steer get past Beering, I think that was. And when you're in a pack of slower cars, you know that you're quicker than them. It always fills you full of confidence to be able to kind of just slice your way through the pack, especially if you can do it so efficiently like Peter Hrobar is, where you're kind of getting away with an overtake a lap at least.
Yeah, and talking about people or drivers that were catching up a lot, we've been talking about Waldecker before, and I'm surprised to see he's not actually gaining time. So my prediction of him ending up in the top 10 seems to be quite wrong, because he is actually losing time on Conway ever so slightly. The gap getting bigger each lap, so it doesn't look like he will actually catch up to anyone there. But someone who is catching up is Price, and he is getting closer to the 9th place there, to Door. And I guess in a few laps or even a few corners, as we saw this race, how quick it can go, maybe he will have the chance to... Oh, and there was someone off the track. That was Shadler here.
Oh,
Okay,
that's the leader of the silver class. So Shadler, who won silver class in race 1, leading silver class in race 2. He's had an unfortunate incident there at the S's and finding it fairly difficult to get that car pointed in the right direction, and he's lost a lot of places, I think, to the guys ahead. I'm just looking now, waiting for the timing board to update. 17th place for Shadler at the moment, so he has dropped out of the lead, and that has promoted number 17, Doa, into the lead of the silver class, and he has Price right on the back of him. So we do have a race for the lead in silver.
Yeah, and we saw again the thing that I mentioned before with the drivers just fighting with their cars. Because we saw with Shadler another one who didn't have any contact or any other car near him, in fact, who just, lost control of his car. Luckily didn't hit the wall, so he can maybe gain a few positions back, but just sliding off the track, of course, having to wait until the track is clear, especially in this fast turn there, to not risk hitting any other car. But yeah, that seems to be the thing in this race here, as Lawrence is again trying to get the place from Kennedy, and he is close behind him, but I guess Kennedy just doesn't give him the opportunity to make any safe maneuver here. And as you mentioned before, Loring probably just being a bit more careful than he was in the last race. So there needs to be really a big opportunity or a mistake from Kennedy, which can still happen. Because, we saw so many mistakes already. But for now, Lawrence just tried to stick his bumper closer to Kennedy and, wait for the opportunity.
Well, the opportunity has to come sooner rather than later for Martin Lawrence, because we've got just under 6 minutes of race 2 remaining, and, well, he's got the podium well within his sights. But like you said, just not able to get past at this point in time. Leo Hirvonen not catching the likes of Charlie Crossland, so it looks as if Crossland taking the lead is going to lead from start to finish, and I just wonder if Leo Hirvonen hadn't made that mistake, would he have eventually got past the likes of Charlie Crossland? I guess we might not know. Having said that, Hirvonen did just take 0.8 of a second out of Crossland's lap time. Not entirely sure if that was a mistake by Charlie Crossland. But nonetheless, the gap has slightly shrunk between the two of them. And well, it's going to be interesting to see, is that going to be a reoccurring theme as Charlie Crossland encountered an issue, or is that just a one-off mistake for the leader? Meanwhile, Peter Hrobar on the back of Christian Buchel, and he's going to try and make himself up into 12th place overall. Of course, Buchel in the silver class, Hrobar in the pro class, and he's trying to recover whatever he can from what hasn't been a terrible race 2, but definitely not the ideal race 2, but anything beats being DNF, I suppose.
Yeah, that is true, and we have seen. I mean, in this race, the grid looks a bit more reflective of what the qualifying told us. So less mistakes or accidents than the first race, but still, some of these drivers being able to gain quite a lot of positions and making their way through the field here, as we're watching Conway, who is trying to now get the 9th position from Price and how do you pronounce that? Dihor or Dor?
Well, I mean, I've gone for Dor. Personally, I mean, it is difficult as a commentator when you come across a new name that you've never heard before. You have to try and figure out how it's said, and it's always whoever has to go first that has to kind of come up with their own pronunciation for that name. But we'll go with Dorr until further notice, and he's got Price on the back of him. Of course, they're fighting for the lead in the silver class, and Harry Conway, who is not in the silver class, he's in the pro class. He just wants to get past, so he's fighting for overall position.
And maybe we should just let the drivers upload an audio file there into their profile, as we're seeing Dorr here making the mistake and giving Price this position. And after this replay is done, we're going to see if Conway could capitalize on that mistake as well. Just going a bit wider there, leaving enough room. And Conway did not, in fact, make that pass, but it put him closer to the 9th position than he was before. Just now that he's following a different driver. And it's still 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go for him to make his way to the 9th position. And yeah, okay, that looked like Dorr just made another mistake there by braking a bit too early and giving Conway this position. So either Dorr just feels like the guys behind him were a bit quicker and he maybe just let him pass in this turn, or just made a mistake and gave Conway there the easy pass. And yeah, as I was saying, maybe these drivers should just upload an audio file of how to pronounce their name to our signups website, so we can just play it, and then we know for sure how they're pronounced.
I mean, that would be a perfect solution, Stewie. But unfortunately, you and I both know how difficult it is for people to kind of upload the right material that we're looking for, and I'm sure we'd get plenty of questions on audio file formats and the likes. But moving back towards the action on track, Zeman looking to go around the outside of Cormac Ryan Meenan, and Cormac Ryan Meenan, who did finish 3rd in the pro class, 4th overall in race 1, now finds himself fighting for 6th overall, 6th in class. But of course, Lubomir Zeman isn't going to give that up easily. He's had a decent race here in race 2, and he's looking to improve on that with every passing second as we come towards what is going to be the final lap of the race. Charlie Crossland coming into the final corner. And my eyes have not deceived me. Leo Hirvonen has been catching him. 2.1 seconds now, the gap. So Charlie Crossland, is he just taking it easy? Or has he just been making a few mistakes there in the last couple of laps? We'll have to find out and see. But this is the final lap of the race and the final lap of the evening here for the 650S Cup event. And it is Charlie Crossland that leads for the moment, from Leo Hirvonen and Matt Kennedy in 3rd.
And when we look at the lap times, Hirvonen is around 6 or 7 tenths quicker than Crossland. But yeah, it's probably not enough unless Crossland makes a bit mistake here, as we're watching Nosk being in a big fight here with Sweeney behind him, who we saw before losing, I think, 3 or 4 positions only in the last sector, and he's now trying to get the position back on Nosk here. He is close behind him, but it doesn't look like he's close enough to actually start a move here in the first turn. Just getting closer to him, but yeah, these first corners, if you're not side by side for the first braking zone, it's really hard to actually go for a move here. And Conway, he is behind Price here, but they only have 1.5 laps to go. He looks like he's
half a lap even, because this is the last lap. And
oh, you're right. Yeah, my mistake. But he is going for the move here, and he makes it.
He's gonna get it done. Price obviously not wanting to fight that too hard, but nonetheless, the race winner for race 2, Charlie Crossland, will cross the line and take the win. Leo Hirvonen will finish 2nd. Will not take that 100% win rate tonight, but he will finish on the podium for the 2nd time. Matthew Kennedy will round out the top 3 in pro. We switch back to some of the action here, and Bock has got past Sweeney on the final lap. Is he going to have a move on Mark Noss coming into the final sector here? can't quite have a move into the Crocodiles. We're going to come up towards Cheetah. Don't think he'll have a look through here either. He's got one last chance now into the final corner. Is he going to go around the outside of Mark Noss towards the end here? Yes, he is. He's going to go wide. Mark Noss is going to get the better drive out of the corner. It's going to be right up towards the line, and Mark Noss will pip in by 36 thousandths of a second for 14th place overall. Fantastic racing at the end from two of the silver drivers. And I think that pretty much sums up the evening, Stewie. There's been action from start to finish.
Yeah, not only from start to finish, also through the entire grid. We've been watching fights at the front and the midfield and even in the back. So everyone here trying to get the best position as possible, even though, as we mentioned before, this is just a one-off event, so there's no championship points to be gained here, but everyone just wanting to show what they can do on the track. And I think everyone here has done a fantastic job of doing that and providing us with some crazy fights and, yeah, some amazing racing.
So Charlie Crossland is your winner for race 2, followed by Leo Hervenen and Matt Kennedy. Martin Lawrence, Andy Boardman in the top 5. Cormac Ryan Meenan, Luv Mezium and Harry Conway round out the top 8 for Pro. Price will win the silver class, but from Dor Waldecker puts himself on the podium for silver for the second time this evening. And you can see the rest of the field as run down the order there. A few more of the pro drivers just encountering some difficulties. Of course, Jan Matthias didn't actually take to the start. Youssef Varga, unfortunately, DNF'd in this race, and it looks like Thom DNF'd for the second time here tonight. So for a few guys, not really going their way. But for us, it has definitely been an enjoyable race here, and it's been absolutely fantastic to have you alongside tonight, Stewie. And, well, we look forward to some more events that we're going to be hosting here soon. And speaking of some more events, tomorrow night we have round 5 of the RCI Porsche Cup Season 2. We are going to be at Barcelona for what I believe is a night race in the Porsche Cup. We're going to see if Mike Noble can continue and wrap up the championship one race before the end of the season. And of course, we'll have to find out who will be competing for the honours of second, third, and all the rest in that championship. It is so close in the Porsche Cup. Other stuff that we have coming up as well. We do have the 9 Hours of Imola coming up on Saturday. And that's the Giardia 9 Hour of Imola Winter Special that we are running with everyone's favourite smile, Jaroslav Honzik, also known as Giardia. And he's decided he wants rain for the 9 Hour. So if anyone wants to complain about the weather that we've set, you can get the hashtag Blame Giardia trending on Twitter. We'd love to see that one start going. And maybe we'll revisit that come the weekend. And of course, we'll be live streaming the entire Pro Invitational split, all 9 hours of it, with our commentary team. And then, of course, we'll have the finale of the Porsche Cup on the Monday following that. And then it's the winter holiday season, and we will come back sometime in mid-January with our welcome back event that we haven't quite finalized any decisions on. We do have some one-off events planned for our return in the new year. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in today, for spending your Sunday evening with us. Of course, big thank you to Race Department, AK Informatica, and Raceface Speed Labs as well. They help us so much. And of course, if you are new around here, do subscribe and hit the like button. It really does help us a lot. And it lets us know that we are doing a good job and that we need to keep improving. And we will do so to make RCI TV broadcasts as good as they can be. But from myself tonight, from Mike Jones, who's done a fantastic job behind the cameras, and from Stewie in the commentary box alongside me, thank you very much for watching and enjoy the rest of your weekend.